I'd like to welcome everyone to the 11 April 2022 Jackson County Commission meeting and call this meeting to order. And so again, welcome to everybody that is attending. At this time, we'd like Mr. Manning, the county administrator, to please call the roll to establish quorum.
Yes, sir. Mr. Rich?
Present.
Mr. Venable?
Present.
Mr. Buckner?
Present.
And Mr. McBride?
Present.
We do have a quorum. Thank you. At this time, if everyone would stand, I'd like to ask Mr. Porter, our county attorney, to please lead and offer our invocation, and I will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray. God our Father, you're the maker of all things, and we're so thankful for that. We're thankful for your presence amongst us today and in our lives. We're thankful for this county that we get to live in. It is such a joy and such a pleasure and such a beautiful place. At this time of the year, we are mindful of a spirit of renewal and redemption and resurrection, and we're thankful for that. We see around us the flowers that are blooming, the trees that are coming out. We also know that there are other means of resurrection that are so important this time of year. So we're thankful for these things. We pray that you'll watch over us and guide us, direct us every day. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our proceedings today, I'd just like to make a comment that one of our great family members of this county, Mr. Deputy Barry Munza, is having some very difficult times right now and very ill. It's always been a great pleasure to come in the morning and have Barry there to talk to you, ask you some interesting questions, and have some very interesting discussions. But he has served our county well as a member of our security force here, and so I would ask that everyone please keep him in your thoughts and prayers at this time. So with that, the agenda, next on the agenda, our agenda is the approval of our minutes from our meeting of the 28th of March. And so I take that back. I'm getting a little ahead of things, excuse me. I was honestly a little taken with where Barry is right now, my fault. In the packet, you have your agenda for this meeting for our April the 11th meeting. And so you can review that. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda for April the 11th, 2022?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion and a second.
I'd like to, if we could, move on the work session 3, Rich Drive to county inventory, put it on the meeting. We discussed it last meeting, and we're going to have more discussion about it this meeting.
I would like to, as I have sometimes with you guys have requested that we have some further discussion. I do not have an issue with voting on that today. I do have some questions I would like to ask for you.
I make a motion that we add it to the meeting.
I'll say.
Then we can discuss it and we can table it if we have to.
That's how you. Okay, I think to do that, to change the agenda, do we need a affirmative vote from everybody?
To change the agenda? No,
Yes.
just change it, and then once you can approve the agenda as
Amended?
After we discuss it.
Yeah. Okay, we have a motion to amend the agenda by moving item 7A3, is that what you want to move?
Yes.
To the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So we will move it as item F in the agenda. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, do we have any awards or presentations? We have none. Do we have any public comment? We have none. Okay, with that.
Sir.
I'm sorry, sir. Yes, sir. Can you please state your name, please?
Yes, Leighton Olson.
Okay.
I'm with the Internet Public Trust, and I'm following up on comments for the last time. These comments are primarily for the May meetings, and they are on the ABCs of broadband. I think I won't try to summarize them. What I will do is pass out an outline, and if people are interested, I'd be glad to talk with persons. I've got a copy of the Alabama broadband plan, which can will be front and center in all of these things. And the ABCs of livable communities, broadband are first of all, living and economic development. Second, education. And third, connecting across generations. From 5 to 105.
Okay, sir.
So, thank you very much.
Okay, and is that all, sir? Any other comments?
Just that, if people like it, I do have this really, this full DECA report. And I think it's massive and it's tremendous. And it brings in so much new capacity. It's 4 or 5 years worth of work, but mostly in this last year. So if someone would like to duplicate it, I'd be glad to have it here to do that, but
Okay.
it matters to pick up, for the
All right.
future.
Let me ask if any of our commissioners have any comments or questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, with that, thanks for the public comment. We will move into the meeting portion of our agenda. In the new business, we have several items. First is motion to adopt the minutes as provided from the March 28, 2022 meeting. They are in your packet. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
We didn't do it. We didn't get a second.
Oh,
That's where I was confused.
I thought we did, but,
No, we jumped ahead.
okay. I'm sorry, guys. So I'm getting, so make sure we're in process order here. So we had a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting as adjusted. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. So motion minutes are approved. Meeting is approved as adjusted. So back to the meeting, if I could. Next item on our meeting agenda is a motion to approve extension of the temporary employment contract for Patrick Gamble with Mapping and Appraisal Department. That letter of recommendation is in your packet, the temporary employment contract.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second. Any discussion or questions? If none, all in favor say aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next in the meeting agenda is a motion to approve hiring committee's recommendation for vacant driver collector at Solid Waste Department.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll
we
second.
have a motion.
I'll
We
second.
have a second. Any discussion or questions? None. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item in the agenda is the motion to approve the hiring committee's recommendation for the vacant Scottsboro Senior Center manager at Council of Aging.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a resolution to adopt policies and procedures for non-infrastructure projects to be carried out by subrecipients. In our last meeting, we had a discussion of whether to place our request and prior approval of a $30,000 grant to our rescue squad for repair of doors. We elected to stay with the ARPA process. And so this resolution is a resolution that, given that we're using federal funds, there is a specific process that we have to follow, and it has been provided to us by our Invest in Alabama counties. And it states, whereas Jackson County, Alabama is charged with ensuring that such funds are expended in accordance with state and federal law, and whereas the county may transfer ARPA funds to eligible entities to carry out eligible funds, and whereas the county may provide financial assistance where the assistance will serve a public purpose, therefore be it resolved by the commission, the county shall take the necessary steps to determine the eligibility of the ARPA funds project to be carried out by a subrecipient, and to transfer any related funds in accordance with the implementation policies and procedures set forth, the provisions of which are fully adopted and incorporated. You do have the policy and procedures set forth. It does have a specific set of requirements, and those requirements including determining the project eligibility. As we look at this project, it meets that. In conducting a risk assessment to determine that the subrecipient is capable of executing to the requirements. Executing a subaward agreement, which we will do, and IAC will assist us in drafting that. Monitoring the performance of the subrecipient, and that includes periodic reviews, auditing, confirmation, and given the amount of funding, we would be subject to audit, but the subrecipient would not. And closing out the subaward by ensuring that all the administrative requirements are complete. To execute those funds, we would be required to adopt this resolution. So with that, do I have a motion to approve and sign the resolution to adopt policies and procedures for non-infrastructure projects to be carried out by subrecipients?
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor say aye.
I have one question. Will this have to be done at every?
No.
So this is
Good question.
Something that will be done.
Because, if I could, because we are, in many cases, the first among the IAC county that are asking to execute these types of funds, as we were with the water project, as we are with this, and as we were with our premium pay, we're sort of leading the way in this process. And so when we execute this, we will not have to execute another subrecipient adoption of policy. This policy applies to all subrecipients. Next, item F in our new business, and that applies to, if I can get back to it, a motion to approve the adoption of Ridge Drive.
Are there any
into the county.
discussion, any questions?
I'm sorry?
Are there any questions that needs to be asked before we vote on it?
I think it's a motion and a second, then we get to discussion, and then we will vote. So do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion, a second.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second. So question. I really don't have an issue or question with Ridge Drive. My question has to do, as we look in administering in the future for the county and for the people of the county, when a contractor decides to build a community, and in building that community builds a set of roads within the county, is there a precedent, not a precedent, but is there a procedure, or, and I know we don't have ordinances, but are there certain specific requirements that that contractor must abide by
Yes,
in the building of those roads and the specification of those roads?
yes, there's the Alabama subdivision, what is it called, John, exactly?
Yeah,
The guidelines that we have to go by to build a subdivision and build the roads, and then you have to, build it to the state standards and specs. The certain shoulder width, certain ditch depth, certain road bed width. It has to be monitored by the public works as it's being constructed. And then the builder of the road has a 1-year maintenance. And after that 1 year of maintenance, they have to request that the county take it into inventory. That was passed in
2009.
2009.
And this current one is built in 99, right?
This was done, the county had its own rules and procedures in its place. And these 3 roads were built under our supervision and our eye. But for some reason, 2 of the roads were accepted into our inventory and 1 wasn't. We had an engineer at the time that had retired or had left the county for employment. I don't remember if he retired or what. I think it must have got left off. Contractor never completed the request after the 1 year maintenance.
Okay. No, I understood that from the other day. I do not have a problem with this road. My issue is I wanted to make sure, for me, and I'm sure you guys have been around long enough to understand, but I wanted to understand that there was a procedure and requirement within the county that a contractor had to come before the county and ensure that there was compliance. My other question is, if a contractor is not in compliance, is there any requirement of notification of homeowners of non-compliance with the county standard for roads?
So to answer your first question, as Mr. Venable alluded to, as subpart of the subdivision regulations that are approved for Jackson County is a road acceptance section. So it's really a 2-part approval, and they don't necessarily have to be conjoined. But any road that intends to be accepted into county maintenance must follow the specifications listed in the subdivision regulations. And the second part of your question, as part of the subdivision of land and that approval, adjoining property owners must be notified in the process of subdividing land.
Okay.
Furthermore, for the subdivision itself and the road construction part, a bond is required. So the bond is insurance for that road construction as well as the subdivision completion. So that's all subject to approval by the commission in the process of that being secured and approved.
You're not allowed to start selling lots until all that's approved. And then you can sell lots and people can build and live under the 1 year of maintenance by the builder or the contractor.
Okay.
If we could, I don't remember who made the motion and the second, but I would like it amended to state that we're going back and correcting an error in this, that we're not accepting a road that we didn't watch as it was being built. I mean, we have a lot of requests for roads to come into inventory.
And I was very thankful that Jonathan pointed out that
The record showed.
this was not under the current guidelines, but under the ones that existed at the time.
Yeah, and I believe we had that discussion in our last meeting that Mr. Porter made the note that we had to in the adoption of this resolution. So yes, we can make that adjustment. Do we need to take a new motion?
No, he can just amend the motion that he's already made.
I think Danny, did you make the motion?
I seconded the motion.
Yeah, no, motion.
You made the motion, I seconded the motion.
Yeah, I got that. I was just wondering if we needed to amend it.
You need to amend your motion.
I make a motion that we amend the motion to reflect the discussion that was carried out concerning
Be clear on that, Jason, so I,
This is a correction of a mistake.
correction of a mistake and not, that something was overlooked and not something new. Would that,
Yeah, that we're accepting the roads that was built to standards before 2009, is that right?
Correct. It was an oversight,
an oversight, yeah.
not to include this road.
It might not have been a mistake, it was just an
Maybe I
oversight.
shouldn't say mistake, but an oversight.
I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that we did see this road built. We have records of seeing this road built and how the process that it went through, and it was the process we had in place. So I will second the motion, with that language in it.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second, we've had discussion. Now, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. And, thanks for bearing with a new guy who was trying to figure out how this process works, and we are certainly taking care of the citizens of our county. So with that. So that is the last item in our meeting, new business section. We now move to the work session. After the last meeting that we had, we did have a public hearing on our Liberty Lane project. Thanks to the committee for the work that was done. Thanks for the briefings, and thanks for the citizens who turned out for that. To proceed, our next item with Liberty Lane would be a requirement to solicit or to get engineering design and a bid or a spec and a bid package. And again, the Invest in Alabama Counties has helped us with this process, where we would, without their help, have had to go out with a formal bid package to get a design engineering firm to come in and put that together for us. They have done that process. They have pre-qualified bidders. And with that, all we will have to do is go get 3 quotes, or a minimum of 3 quotes. In your package is an email from IAC regarding that process and our requirements for the quotes, and also it's a list of the pre-qualified vendors. Those pre-qualified vendors include CMH Architects, Goodwin Mills Kaywood, JMR+H Architects, Labella Associates, and PH&J Architects. So those are available to us. If we want to continue to proceed to get that, we can use this set of pre-qualified vendors, go request 3 quotes, and bring those quotes before the commission for consideration. Any discussion?
Now, are we limited to these 5, or is this just the ones we know are pre-qualified?
They are pre-qualified. If we're not limited to these 5, we can go get others, but we need to clarify if we get others, since they have not been pre-qualified by the state, we may have to go out and do a formal bid package for that. So no further discussion, so let me also ask if do we want to proceed to go get and request quotes from 3 of these vendors? And I would propose that I bring a recommended list of 3 vendors to the commission to go get quotes from. Any discussion with that?
Are there any local contractors or architects that we could reach out to see if they would?
Mr. Rich, well, they're not on the pre-qualified list that we have from the state, and we can certainly check to see if there are local firms that would be interested in doing design work for us and not bidding on the project. So I can check that and bring that back to the meeting, a list of any local firms that would be interested in this, as well as an idea of, given the pre-qualified list, 3 that we may want to consider.
I know some that are closer, but I don't know that you would be calling them local. I don't know that we have an architectural firm in the county. Where?
Okay.
And I noticed some of these, even though they're listed as Montgomery, Birmingham, they have offices.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So it's going to be relatively local folks who do the work. So by being pre-qualified, our advantage is it speeds up the process. Is it? Because what would the bid process be?
It would not be a bid process. We would put out a notice to deliver quotes. I would believe that what we would want to do is have a period of time where we would invite these contractors who would be interested in participating to come and do a walkthrough and view delivery lane and have a discussion about the intention of how we'd like to see the design. Then they would go put together the design package and the bid and spec package.
All right, so you mentioned that you would bring us a list of 3. Would there be any? Would it be too much time to have all 5 invited? I mean, they may look at us and go, "I'm not interested." I mean,
It says a minimum of 3. We can invite all 5.
I would
That's
agree.
what we would
Yeah,
do.
Mr. Butler, because
More the better.
If you invite 3, one may not come, and then we're running short on that.
I want the hungry dog to show up. So.
That's right. All right, we can certainly do that. All right, any further discussion? Okay, thanks. Next, at our last meeting, we had a discussion about non-paying customers at our solid waste department. The question was asked, if I could, I did try to go find answers to the question. If I could offer some comments regarding that, and then we'll open it up for discussion. As was stated at our budget hearings, the sanitation department brought forward a list of customers that had not paid, were behind due, and we took under advisement for collection opportunity. The total value of that was $288,000. In those discussions, we talked about a process by which we would go make collection, and that process would be to either issue warrants or summons. Last meeting, the sanitation department brought forward their recommendation. The total debt owed at that time was $200,000 that they recommended that we go and take action to collect. So it was 288.9, 31 August, and the budget sessions have been reduced to 200. It is now up to about $207,000 due to fees that have accumulated since our last meeting. So in looking at that, the question was, what was the reduction? So if I could, for not just us, but for the folks who are listening, what is the process that the sanitation department uses for write-off? So the write-off process is that they must perform a site check for the account with a delinquent balance, and during the site check, they have to determine who occupies the residence. And this possible outcomes of the site check include the customer still occupying the residence, therefore owes the bill and must pay, or we go through the process of collection. Number 2, a new customer is occupying the residence and the location of the previous resident is unknown. Number 3, the resident is vacant. In that case, unknown where they are as well. Number 4, the customer has passed away, deceased. And number 5, an exemption issue is regarding the customer may be at issue. If the customer is still occupying the residence and owes the bill, an attempt is made to collect the debt or work out a payment plan with the customer. If there's a new customer occupying the residence, they are notified garbage service is mandatory and they must sign up for the service. If we do not have any information where the previous tenant is now located, the balance is written off. However, this does not mean the debt is cleared. The write-off will remain on the customer's account, and if they ever move back into the county and we find information where they are, then they are subject to debt collection. If the resident is vacant, the debt is written off, but the same applies. The debt is not completely written off. It goes into the historical file for a collection later if we can locate the debtor. If the customer has passed away, the debt is written off as deceased. If there's an exemption issue with a customer, an attempt is made to resolve the issue and clear the debt either by payment plan or writing the balance off because the customer should have been on the exemption program. And then any debt that is over 5 years old is written off. Usually by law, it is uncollectible in civil or criminal court. Looking at the data that we had, of the files that have been looked at, some further information. The debt amount in November, I'm going back in history a little bit, November 2019 was $678,089. The debt amount presented at the budget committee, as they said, was $288,000. So work has been done by the commission to reduce debt owed in the county. Also, citation amount. Citation is if our debts are owed from $100 to $200. Citations are issued to those customers that are behind in an attempt to prevent them from getting further behind. And so that the citation amount included a total at the budget meeting of $55,700. In the write-off that occurred to get down to the $200 and now $207,000, the write-off information by category. The amount of debt that had exceeded 5 years was $2,440. Unable to look at the big number was $43,262. Deceased was $8,799. Exemption issue was $11,459. Court issue was $2,718. Court issue is when the debtor has been brought to court. There is an agreement made as to what the payment is, and in some cases that agreement is below what we show as debt. So if we accept, then what is not collected is written off. Billing issues where there was mistaken billing. Example, one case that I'm aware of is we took up cans, but we continued to charge for garbage service for months. So that was a billing issue. And then there are late fees. So the total write-off was $72,311. Of note, the commission undertook a write-off project in 2020 and went out to make sure that we tried to address the debt owed to the county. And in that process wrote off $472,000. There is a record of all site visits that is kept by the sanitation department. And so that record is here. One other note, recommendation. Previously, the commission had always had the sanitation department to come before the commission to approve any write-offs. The last evidence I can find, or we can find, of that happening was in 2009. It may be of value for us to reinstate that the sanitation department comes before the commission, either on a monthly or quarterly basis, to discuss the write-off, what the write-off categories are, and for the commission to either approve that or be aware of that in consideration of write-off. One thing I would suggest is that we need to approve the process of authority for write-off. This process that's been used recently has been been used for a number of years. And I think we ought to have a consideration of whether we want to grant the sanitation department director the authority to write off, or whether we want it brought before the commission for the commission to approve the write-off. One consideration. Regardless, I would recommend that there's a quarterly report to the commission, at least quarterly, maybe monthly, of any outstanding debt and or the status of how we would treat that debt. And I also would suggest that however we deal with this, we need to proceed with the summons process that we have put in place to go recover as much of this outstanding debt as possible. So that's the information that I was able to get as I looked into this. So let me open for discussion or questions.
Do we have a list of the accounts from October the 1st till current date that made up the $70,000, $78,000?
Yes, we do. Here it is. And here's the list of the accounts of all the $288,000. We have that.
I asked for that list a month ago. Well, Wednesday will be a month ago. So it's very concerning to me that the commission is the governing body and when our sanitation was set up, the commission retained and kept the authority. The commission could have created a solid waste board the way I read the law and understand, and the commission at that time did not do that. So we definitely need to look at our policy and the way things are done, because we're the ones that are responsible for it. And so it's taken a month and I still don't have a copy of what I requested. Unacceptable to me.
I would agree that if you request information, that information will be available. I requested this last week after the last meeting, but I was aware that there was concern.
I requested it on Wednesday after this was first presented to us. So this Wednesday will be 4 weeks I requested it.
Okay.
And then I went by 2 more times, and then I asked at our last meeting 2 weeks ago for that information to be given to me. Still don't have it. So,
Well, I think we will make that information available. It should have been made available. I think any information in the county that the commissioners ask for, that information should be made available. And we will assure that that is done. Okay? So any further discussion or questions?
I agree with the recommendation for at least a quarterly review. That way we can stay abreast of where we are on these write-off situations. Because as we've alluded to, I mean, it is the citizens' money, and we want to make sure that this is not something.
I think it ought to come before the commission to approve the write-offs.
Okay. So we could put that motion forward at our next meeting to establish that procedure. Is that what you'd like to do? Mr. Rich, is that okay? Okay.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, only the commission, this is a debt that's owed to the county.
Right.
And only the commission can relieve somebody of that debt. So you either need to do as Mr. Rich suggested, require that the list come back to the commission for approval as a write-off. That is, the debt is no longer owed to the county, or give the director that. But you need to do something, because the way it's going now is not appropriate.
Well, if I remember a couple of weeks ago, Ms. Green was talking about a situation where somebody had passed away, but somebody was still using the garbage service in the one that passed away's name. But somebody's still living there, but it got, what would they do about that? Would they just write it off even though that person is still using the garbage service? Not the person that passed away, say a relative that was living there at that place.
I can only go back to, as I understand what this is. If there was a
That's what-
previous tenant that overbilled, the current tenant would not know, but they would owe what they were responsible for, I believe. Okay, we can go check that and clarify
But
that.
that would be a decision that would need to come before the commission and we'd be aware of, rather than, is what you're saying. 11,000 some odd, said was, exemptions. Right. Did we go through the process that is required? And we couldn't have on the time restraints and the time requirements. I mean, you have to have that application in before October the 1st every year. So how did we write off? I mean, that's kind of circumventing the law. I mean, the law says you have to have it in to be exempt each calendar year. So how are we writing off $11,000, exempting $11,000 worth of folks? And if we are, did we still get the required paperwork proving their income?
Yes, what I understood from the question I asked, and I asked that question, is these were individuals that previously, for previous years, had been approved for exemption, but due to healthy issues or they were unable to get in the time to submit this year's exemption. Now, that's what I understand. Need to go back and look at that more completely and make sure we understand that we can do that. But for the records, that was the amount. The $11,459 was written off for exemption. Okay. All right, so we have a few more questions here before I guess we bring to the commission the vote to proceed with the summons process. So we'll try to get answers to those questions for the next meeting. Any further discussion or question?
So back to the $11,000, Mr. Porter, I'll ask you, do we need to revisit that in some way as a commission? Or-
Well, the policy and the laws in place, I mean, it says what it says. So I'm not sure, I think you could, if you wanted to, you need to go back and look at each individual quote write-off. I don't know exactly how that occurred, and that's a lot of write-offs. 785 months of write-off total at the current rate. So, yeah, I would suggest that you get more information on that because we don't want.
Right. So taxpayer money.
Right, it's taxpayer money, and many of these may have been legitimate. We just don't know.
Right.
We're relying upon the information provided by the director, which I have no reason to doubt. It's just that I don't know the answer to the question. I don't have enough information.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. With that is the last item in the work session discussion items. At this time, we'll proceed with reports from the staff. First, County Administrator. Okay. County Engineer.
Sir, thank you.
Okay. County Attorney.
I don't have anything else, thanks, sir.
Any other departments? Okay. If there's no any further reports from the staff, proceed to comments from the commission. First, District 4, Commissioner McBride.
I'd just like to say, remember Barry in your prayers, his family. Keep him in your prayers. He's a hero to me. I mean, he's a very likable guy. If you've ever had a chance to sit down and talk to him, he's very personable, and he's certainly going to be missed around here because he's retiring. But y'all keep his family in your prayers, and keep our military in your prayers.
District 3, Commissioner Buckner.
Yes, I want to echo Commissioner McBride's sentiments with Barry, one of the true heroes of Jackson County. The way you want people to conduct themselves is how I would describe Barry. It's always a joy to be with him, and thankful for his time and service, and honored to know him. Just as an additional note, work that people are doing toward collecting trash and they're in their yards and on the roadways. Let's just keep that up, because every time we do that, that's just something else that's not going to get in the riverways. And it's an absolutely impossible task for just a few individuals to do this. It's going to take all of us. And so I'm thankful for all the folks that are chipping in and keeping their areas clean and doing their exercising part. And so weather's beautiful for it. Get out there and get it done. And so if we can help you in any way, please let us know.
District 2, Commissioner Venable.
Just like to reiterate what everybody said about Barry. Let's keep his family in the prayers.
District 1, Commissioner Rich.
It's tough to get the news about Barry. I really got to know him real good over the past 4 years, and everybody called him old one-shot Barry. I hope and pray the family has comfort during this time. And also in another news, yesterday was Palm Sunday, and the Jackson County Shrine Club had their yearly annual Palm Sunday paper drive over the whole county, and we were able to raise $8,000 for the Shriners Hospital for Children, and that was a good turnout. And I appreciate everybody that donated, and that's all I got to say.
I would also say, and thanks to everybody for the comments regarding Barry. He has been a great servant to this county for many, many years. So thank you. Please keep him and the family in your thoughts and prayers. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 26th of April, 2022. At this time, I'd like to consider a motion to go into executive session for the good name and character of an individual.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.